Well, there we go. I'm recording now, so fuck it. Let's get it in. Let's get it in, boys. The Last of Us TV show. I don't even know where to start, so fuck it. Let's start with you there, Silver, because I've been anxiously awaiting your thoughts on this, man.
All right, so
start from episode 1 and just go through spoilers, by the way, for anybody watching this. If you don't like it, fuck out of here.
No
offense.
I was highly anticipating the show for obvious reasons. I'm a massive fan. Would be an understatement. So I'm really good about when I watch movies, film, whatever. I can I kind of just go into it just for pure entertainment, and I try not to be very judgy. Like by example, Black Adam. It was like a lot of people hated it. I actually enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. Just to give it like an example of how because it's not good stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I enjoyed it. But when it comes to this show, I was highly anticipating it, and when they revealed the casting, I was I don't know. I wasn't feeling it, so I had that bias going into it. But I also have the bias of playing the game 12 times or 12 times, I think, something like that. I mean, I've played the single player campaign so many times, it's unreal. And likewise, my wife watched me play it all the way through, I think 5 times. And then all my girls, their first game they ever beat was The Last of Us.
Nice.
So we all watched it as a family. And episode 1, episode 1 and 2, it's almost 1 for 1 in regards to the story beats. But they have like subtle nuanced differences,
right, yeah.
Right. So like some of the backstories or whatever, how they connect, the story beats are different. But when it comes to episode 1, what I didn't like was them getting rid of the what they call it, spores.
Spores.
Right.
Mainly because of how the actual fungus works in real life. It utilizes the spores to spread. So for whatever reason, they felt like that was a bad idea to go with, and so they went with the tentacle things, which it's cool. Like it works out well in the show, but it feels too much like The Strained, which is a vampire show that kind of had the same concept.
Okay.
So it seems more like a ripoff of that than it was like being innovative. So I wouldn't really.
You like really the fact that they put the slime mold though, like they kind of replaced it with that too, where you I think you were the first one that even told me about it, the slime mold or whatever, how it's able to like find different paths and like have like a network pretty much of like.
Oh yeah. So that's the other part of that's really cool. And they said they utilize that from a realistic standpoint, which is true. So in our real world, the animal kingdom, the fungus is like the internet of plants. So the fungus runs in the soil all over. Like take the rainforest by example. Fungus runs along the entire bed, if you will, of the forest or jungle or whatever, and that's how the plants can communicate through that. So they're utilizing that as a way for like if you step on it in the show, the infected can feel that and know where you are a mile away, right? Like so that was cool, and I think that would be a cool addition to the game. Quite honestly, I think that could have made some really cool set pieces. But so I liked all that. But so episode 1 was pretty freaking good. I don't think Sarah's death was as impactful for some reason as the game, but that could be a biased standpoint because it hit like people that have not played the game. It hit them pretty hard.
Oh hell yeah! From like reaction videos that I've seen, I've seen a lot of people fucking sobbing at that shit, just like people did with the game.
Right. So everybody that played the game, at least in my household, this is not true necessarily on the internet, which I can't trust. Like even Sony guys that I know that I've fucked with for years, right? I feel like they're capping a lot because they're just going to praise Sony no matter what. And they're viewing this as a Sony W as opposed to like its own separate entity in a way. So I feel like the show tells the story in a more simplistic way and leaves more to your imagination. And typically when you go that route, you'll see that a lot with like Schindler's List. I could go through a whole number. I can make this podcast really long, but the nuance that they put in the show, I think just came across like filler to me, as opposed to being like simplistic genius, like
Right.
like by example, the watch. To me, they killed the emotional impact of the watch by giving you a backstory where she stole money and got an old watch repaired, as opposed to her, them just saying, "Hey, how you makes you imagine how she got the money for the watch and where'd she get it from? How'd she do that?" It makes it more impactful if you have to use your brain, and they took that away from it, in my opinion.
Interesting.
The other thing I didn't like was the removal, and this goes across the entire game, the entire show. They're removing gameplay beats that I don't agree with. Like, why did the Robert scene in episode 1? Why did they remove Joel and Tess chasing him down, breaking his arm, fighting his people, all that? Like, why did they remove that? And we just got the end of it. So, like, the story beat's still there, but you took out all the action. Why? Because during the action, you see a bond happening that this also translates to other episodes as well. But like through the action and the gameplay set pieces, you're seeing character growth through their character arcs, right? And when you remove that, you're missing out on that. They try to replace it with like just dialogue in the show, which again, it comes across more like Breaking Bad as opposed to like The Walking Dead, early seasons of The Walking Dead. So The Walking Dead, by example, because I went back and watched those, like the first three seasons.
Amazing, by the way, the first season of The Walking Dead,
Even I watched the first season, was dope as shit.
Yeah, Darabont, that fucking dude, his vision for zombies are amazing, and the show's never been the same since season 1, like since he got fired or whatever.
Well, season 1 and 2 go super hard like that. You can basically
where he left.
The show.
Yeah.
But so my point to that though is like if you were to take the season 1 and 2 of The Walking Dead, and you can make the argument that they have gameplay sections, right? Like where they're sneaking around, they're rummaging through houses trying to find stuff like you would in The Last of Us. There's fighting zombies. There's all in this show. They got rid of a lot of that, and I don't understand why. Like the scene where they were in the museum and they actually fought the clickers.
Yeah.
Like the clickers, by example, were done really well because they used practical effects. They didn't use green screen and all that and special effects. They just used real makeup and shit. So in prosthetics, outstanding. Which that's episode 2. But they did away with the way the game did it, and I think the game did it in a much more impactful way because they separated Joel, you the character, from the girls, and you're trying to fight back to them. And that puts you in more of an adrenaline, like kind of fear state. And the show doesn't do that. Like they try to portray it, but like they're all in the same room. So it didn't
it's cold cut and dry. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't like that. So anyway,
the building, even going through the building and all those set pieces of when they were outside of the building, scaling the building, and she was like kind of like a little bit afraid of heights and stuff, where you had to jump on the elevator. Like there's a lot of these little things that, as you said, it brings them together as a core group, and they missed out on all these things so much to the point that I don't even feel that Tess is as badass as she was in the game. Because like you said, the part where you go after Robert is a great part for her. Like she's going around just like murking people.
Everybody.
Yeah, and you do not get that. So like for me, Tess in the show just isn't as badass. Like she's not that girl. You know what I mean?
And the other thing is and the way she dies, like I don't know what they.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
Oh yeah.
I get why with the way they did it was to more of like showcase how the fungus works, as opposed to highlighting how impactful that moment was, which they tried to go back to in episode 3 at the very end with that letter, which was a cool touch, but like it should have had a better meaningful impact during the death scene, which you were able to get in the game because you traversed the world with Tess through the gameplay sections that they removed from episode 1. You know what I mean? Like the story beats are there, but I feel like they're missing the nuance of the game and replacing it with nuance that doesn't hit the same. So, and I didn't like the whole makeout session she had with the infected, which was weird. I mean, again, that's straight up the Strand. I haven't seen the Strand or Stranding. it's a vampire show where they have tentacles that come out. Like it's the same fucking thing. Like that's all it is.
Here's my other thing too, right? Like, so she knocked over a crate full of gasoline and grenades and shit, and decides to pick up a frigging lighter instead of holding a grenade and taking the pin out. Why?
She would have looked more badass if she would have took that fucking pin out of a grenade, dude. That lighter scene, dude, like that felt so like I don't know, just something was off for me on that, dude. And like it's more of a nitpick for me, but nah, bro. Like, 'cause I was sitting there questioning, like, why you dropped grenades on the ground when you knocked the fucking barrel over? Why aren't you using that?
The other thing I noticed is from a cinematography standpoint, like they're doing a really good job of
getting the shots right. Yeah.
Well, they're showcasing like how the environment looked in the game, and they're portraying it on screen. Now, here's the problem though. They're using a lot of green screen and shit, and it doesn't look right. Like it makes it look more like a B movie. Like the explosion, by example, was not a real explosion, and it looks shitty. Like they need to do closer shots to where you're getting more character on screen, and the environment's more in the background faded, as opposed to like where you're highlighting the background, because it doesn't mix well with live action actors, in my opinion.
In the shooting aspect of it, but I did like the fact that the world really does look exactly like how it did in the game. Like that part, I'll give them.
Yeah, it does. They nailed that, like as far as the set pieces go. But like, I don't know. Like the first episode was good in its own right, though, like as a whole. But I get what you're saying, though, sir. Like there was a lot of, like,
and let's give moments, props though. I mean?
The
fucking creepy part where Sarah goes over to get the cookies, and then you see the old lady in the background, like slowly like changing and shit. Like the fungus is taking over, and she's like opening her mouth and stuff, but like she's in the background. Was like that was a tense moment. They need to do more of that, where it's like. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, Sarah, turn around. You know what I mean? Like,
you people got to remember, like, I'm very biased again. So when you play, and I've said this time and time again, but when you play a game, you are a participant in the story that's unfolding in front of you. When you watch it on screen, you are a witness. So the impact is not the same, and it's hard for me to disconnect from that on my favorite franchise of all time. So, like, that's part of the reason why I'm not feeling the impact like other people are. Like my parents, by example, they haven't played the game; they're loving the show. Like they're truly loving it.
You think that's the main problem when it comes to video game movies, just as a whole? Like they change up too much shit, right? So it affects like the way you play the game, right? Because you're right about the Last of Us aspect of it. Like the entire time, like when I'm watching these episodes, while they are good in their own right, it just makes me wish I can just go play the game and say fuck it.
That's,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's from the biased gamer standpoint. Now
that's true.
Where I got pushback from people who shall not be named in their live stream where they talked about me for 30 minutes but wouldn't bring me on to debate them because they're a bitch like Pedro. That's another story. What I'll say is. Like some people are like, yeah, I want the show to be different because I already know how the game plays out, so I want it to be different. I don't disagree with that. However, if you're going to keep the story beats like they are, you then at the same time can't forget about the nuance that builds up on those story beats. And I feel like they've not done a good job of if they can take this if they're going to go one for one on story beat, you cannot leave out the character building that takes place during gameplay. And so if you're going to do it differently, at least remember that during gameplay or action sequences in the show, you have to have character building moments. And they've just pretty much removed, I would say, 80% of the action that's in the game. You know what I mean?
I don't know if they're going to add it in later on, but there's a lot of, especially with, the whole Bill episode, there's a lot of stuff that they left out.
Right. So, and that's where, like, so the way the show is playing out is how Xbox people would make fun of PlayStation games being movie games. This, in their brain, the Last of Us show is how the game actually is, but that's not the reality. The reality is there's more gameplay than quote unquote story. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and I wish they would, I just wish they would focus more on that, and hopefully they will moving forward because they kind of have to for the later parts of the game. But
so I got a question for you, since we never talked about this, and me and Bear have talked about this, and it's funny because we came to the same conclusion at the same time without like that was just it, right? So in the first episode, right, remember that when they got outside, the whole interaction with the guard is a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
And Joel ends up beating the guy to death, right? And then turns back and look at Ellie, and then Ellie has like a fucking smirk on her face. I don't know, for whatever reason, I fucking hated that shit, dude. Like it just wasn't.
She had a smirk in the show.
Yeah,
I don't remember her having a smirk on
yeah.
her face.
So much to the point that I in one of the after series they were talking about how Ellie actually enjoyed seeing somebody do something like that for her because she's not used to people doing things like that for her.
Just look at her fucking
So I'm
face
like,
at the end of episode 1,
yeah,
dude.
Yeah, sure, dude. When Joel like beats a dude's face and he turns around and looks at her and she's like, it's like a smirk, bro. I don't like a it smirk on her face, like a little tiny. It's in the corner of the mouth. You know what I mean?
I'll have to go back and
yeah.
part of my disconnect with even being able to recognize that is I have a hard time looking at their faces because it genuinely bothers me. Like this is my other point.
They're
So
the Costco brand fucking Ellie and Joel.
dude, they're like high top brand, bro. Like the Kmart unbranded.
Kmart.
It's like bagged milk with no brand that Fatal's used to. Like, look, I'm just saying, like
What you got
Pedro,
against my milk, bitch?
So Pedro is, I think Hard Eight described it the best way. Joel is supposed to be a scary, badass, dead-eyed motherfucker, right? Because that's part of his character arc. And
in the first game.
Yeah. And
the second game, that motherfucker was playing guitars and shit.
That's part of his evolution. Like I'm
yeah,
with that, but like when you see Pascal playing that role, he just seems so soft. Like, dude, if I walked up on Pedro in real life and I was like, "You're a bitch, that's Joel, dude. I don't like you," he'd be like, "Sorry, I'm so sorry. Like, I'll do better next time." Like, I don't feel like he's a man. Like, I just feel
all right. So we know that you want Hugh Jackman to be playing fucking Joel. All right, you know what I mean? Like,
would he not be better? Would he not be better?
I don't know.
What about old boy from Game of Thrones with one hand? Like, there's so many actors that would have been better choices. I don't know. It's crazy to me. That's Ellie, on the other hand, she doesn't look right at all, but her acting is pretty good. Like, she's doing a pretty good job of portraying Ellie for the most part.
She's not doing that bad. Yeah, for sure. Like, she has that on lock, man.
Yeah. So she's not too bad. I like Tess, the actress that played Tess. I liked her from her previous roles.
Like but in Fringe and shit. Like, she was awesome in fucking Fringe, man.
Yeah, Tess in the game, I absolutely adored Tess, and in the show, I didn't have that connection with her. Like from the first part of it, where it's like, like the way how they even started it off, right? Because you meet Tess when she comes back and she's fucked up. They made the situation where Tess was already fucked, and only by a certain mishap that happens, she gets out. It just automatically kills everybody else there, and she just gets up and walks out. Like, you couldn't have come up with any other way to make her a strong female, like to make her this badass character, instead of like, oh, a missile went off and like or bomb went off and it's like everybody in there got hit, but Tess just walks away. Like, come on, dude. It's so fucking lazy.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I see what you're saying. I didn't see that as a huge negative. I just feel like when you took away all the
how is she portrayed as a badass?
She's not. She did. I mean, there's her moments, but for the most part, she wasn't.
She wasn't. Well, meanwhile, in the game, she's going through people. She's like, move out of my way. Like she is just that character in the game. Like, her presence actually helps Joel maneuver through the areas that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, yo, he's with me. You know what I mean? Like that power that Tess had in the freaking game is not there, dude. And she's just not the one. And her acting to me is like a little bit off too.
Hey, we're not gonna have any slander. That's Fringe goddess.
But then the actual actress for the game actually passed away too. I think it was of cancer. So that's unfortunate.
And fuck cancer, dog.
Yeah.
So let's
but
move to episode 2. We kind of already discussed. It was more of the same. Like there's more. Episode 2 is kind of a
filler.
Kind of like a throwaway. But so let's get to the key thing that why everybody's listening, which is the abomination, which is episode 3. So I don't even know where to begin with this. I guess it was
strawberries.
Careful on choosing your words too. You know how YouTube is, man.
No, so the story in itself of Frank and Bill was expertly done.
Yes, sir.
It was. I have zero issue with that. Zero issue with the acting. Everything about it was in itself outstanding, but not in the world of The Last of Us. And here's why. Not even necessarily that. I wouldn't even say that. They could have maintained that story like they wanted to do. I mean, I think we all know why they did that. Like, let's be clear. Like, we all know what that was: pandering, virtue signaling, the whole thing, right? But they did it in an expert way, so I'm okay with that. But here's the issue: you have a dude that is a prepper, a survivalist, right? And he goes out and gets into a gun battle, standing in the middle of the street with a bolt-action rifle against people that had automatics. That a survivalist would never, ever do that. That was dumb. I think they could have maintained the Romeo and Juliet story, which is what they were doing, and still maintained. I think they should have shrunk it down to like 30 minutes, give or take, and then had the gameplay sections still be a part of it. So they're doing like a flashback, parlaying. That's what they should have done, because what they ended up doing is, first of all, they ruined how heartless and evil Bill became in a way by making, by the way they ended it. Then they showed one of the biggest issues I had with it is the way they portrayed Joel and Tess hanging out with them. Not that I cared, like them doing a flashback showing how they were cool was fine, but they kind of honed in on how soft Joel really was. And that completely destroys the entire game, because Joel is supposed to be going through a character arc where he is stoic, he's evil, and he did some terrible, he's not a good person, right? And over time, because of the relationship he builds with Ellie, he starts to soften up over time, right? He starts to become vulnerable.
Yeah, they're doing that shit way too early now. Yeah.
They removed all of it. Not to mention, Ellie gets her pistol by stealing it and not through how the game does it. Like they completely ruined what the game is. If you're going to go beat for beat like they've been doing and trying to maintain the same storyline, you then at the same time cannot remove and ruin the very things that made the first game so good. So I don't. You can make it different and exciting and change shit up, but you cannot do it the way they're doing it, in my opinion.
Dude, yeah, and that was the part too. It's funny that you bring up the part where he got shot. He gets shot. They go inside the house, and he goes, "Call Joel." With like
I guess on the radio.
Yeah, like on the radio and shit, but it's just like, all right, you're getting attacked. People are trying to jump your fence and stuff like that. And like, how far away is Joel? You think Joel's gonna like, what is he gonna fucking ride over it on a horse? Like.
Well, the other thing,
they flash past that point to where they're okay. So you have no idea what transpired after he's like, call Joel. Like nothing. They just cut all of that out. They don't show how it's resolved. They don't show if Joel came. Like none of that.
Well, they also it was kind of weird. It's like, so why are you out there shooting in the middle of the street with the bolt action rifle if you were so confident that the fence was going to take care of him anyway? Now you can fix your wound. Like that's a butthole, So, I mean, that's all nitpicky. I don't. But one thing that they picked up on the nuance that I liked about the show was how everybody's interpreting Bill and Frank and their relationship. Apparently, there's like podcasts and stuff that kind of confirm what people say. I'm just going to go off the way I interpret it. And I think the way I'm interpreting it is rather cool. So they were saying, people online were saying that Bill was straight and just became gay, which I thought that's retarded. I thought being gay, you were born that way. It's not a choice. Now it's a choice, whatever. But so the way I interpreted it was that he was closeted his whole life. What's the and then Frank was a miracle that he came across a fellow gay man in this world, in this setting. In the way they showed that, they told that story without any dialogue. It was all in the eyes when they were laying on the bed. Like the way they did that scene was super cool, and everybody has their own interpretation of it. I just took that as like Frank was a miracle to Bill and that's why he was getting emotional, because he had to hide that about himself in the real world, and now then the world's ended. Now he gets to become who he really is. That's the way I took it, and I thought that was fucking awesome. So it's not, and like a lot of people were like, "Oh, Silver, you're going to hate it because you're anti-gay." It's like, no, that has nothing to do with it at all. I'm not even anti-gay, clearly, because I loved the way they did the story. But what I just didn't like the way they got rid of the character building of Joel and Ellie, which is what the fucking game's about. That's what the story's about.
You literally had a whole episode about a character that freaking dies. Like,
Right.
For me, it's such a throwaway episode. Like, why even spend the time to do all of that, to just have a story that you just, a character that goes away? And it's like there's so much other things in that whole beat of the game that happens, that going to the school, the bloater, the scene where Joel gets freaking hung upside down and you have to shoot, going through the traps just to get to Bill using a machete, the back and forth with the gay jokes and Ellie. Like, so much shit got lost in that freaking episode. It's ridiculous. On top of him just offing himself. Like,
so think about the and the whole, not to mention the whole running away, like trying to start the car and all that. Like, but that you can't have that piece without the getting strung up upside down, because what the strung up upside down part was it made Joel vulnerable and had to rely on this one thing, this girl that was relying on him, right? So he had to rely on her, completely inadequate at the moment. And so that was a huge character building part of their story arc. They completely removed that.
Connects you to Ellie at that point, because you're like, holy shit, like, I'm running out of bullets. She's freaking panicking. You have to save her, but at the same time, like, that's a huge part of the game that I don't understand. And it could have been so cool for people who have no idea that that's about to happen. Like, if he had walked through a door and flipped upside down, and then the whole angle of the screen flips upside down, and all this is transpiring. You know what I mean? And you see like Bill come out of nowhere. Like, in the game, it was just executed so fucking well. And like Bill's main weapon of choice, which is the machete and the shotgun, he does not freaking use it. Like,
and the other thing is which is, I want to highlight the medium that we love, which is gaming, right? And so I'm going to send this to my parents so they can hear it, so they can understand that section that we were talking about where Joel gets caught in the trap. Because you are a participant in that story unfolding, you are helpless, and you have to rely on AI or Ellie to help you. But then you start to panic because you're seeing her get attacked too. So you're like, shit, I got to get her. And it's hard to make your shots. So you're in a panic state from 3 different angles. So it's a layered issue. And so it's really hard to pull that off on the silver screen. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate for like older people like my parents who are not used to playing games to at least give it a shot, because it will completely transform the way you can be entertained by a story like that. You know what I mean? Like there's no other way to get that level of emotion from watching TV, in my opinion. Like, I just don't think it's possible. So like again, like what you just said, by taking it out of the show, it just, I don't know. To me, it kind of sets up the rest of the show to be a failure, because I don't know how you reel it back in. I know that the showrunner is outstanding. Like he has one of the highest rated shows of all time, which is Chernobyl. So he knows what the hell he's doing. But that's not. So I'm not to say that like the rest of the show can't be awesome, but it's just they really ruined it for the way I love it, and the way. And here's another anecdotal evidence. My daughter's boyfriend had never played the game, doesn't know anything about it, so he started watching the show, absolutely loves it. And I was like, all right, look, we're going to play the game now after every episode. And so now he comes over and he plays that section, right? And it's really fun to do. I wish I was streaming it from the get-go, because to see him playing the game after watching the episode, he'll pause and be like, dude, this is so much better. Like he's like, why do they do it this way? Why do they do it? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like we're having this conversation every Sunday, because he's now seeing what we see right from the game. And he says on every step of the way, the game did it better. So that's why I don't understand why like people that our known Sony PlayStation guys on Twitter and YouTube and stuff are like capping for the show because I don't get it. If you play the game, how do you watch this show and like the show more? I don't get it. I do not understand.
Yeah, there's a lot missing, man. There's few things that are added that I'm like, hey, cool, that's a positive. Like I said, like the whole the new fungus thing where it reaches out and they're able to like, you know, figure out where you're at, but depending on this whole network of fungus. What happened?
The backstory in episode 2, the way that episode starts off was actually rather interesting, man. 'Cause that definitely pulled me into that episode, man. Learning more about where this thing came from and how it started was pretty awesome.
That's the stuff I like to see in the show because in the game, I don't think we need that. So like the way I look at it is have y'all seen the Tom Cruise movie? Is the War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Okay, so like if you watch the original movie, they're telling you there's a narrative and they're kind of explaining what's happening. But the way Tom Cruise's movie went about it, they just kind of left you in the dark and you're just seeing the chaos unfold. And so you don't really kind of know what's going on. And that's the way I view part one of The Last of Us, the game, is like we don't need to know all that because it doesn't really matter, right? It's more about Joel and Ellie's story and how they're traversing this really confusing, crazy landscape. But now in the show's world, I like that we're getting that because that is different to the game and it's adding something for us core players that it's cool for us to know these things now. We're getting a bigger view of what's happening in the world. So I like that. I love that. I just wish they wouldn't have, taken away all the gameplay like that. That's really, I guess, ultimately that's what it boils down to. Is I don't like how they've removed all the gameplay thus far, and they've completely ruined, in my opinion, the overarching story arc of Joel and Ellie.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I think that that's 100% agreed.
Yep.
It's not developing the characters and the character bonds with those sequences that happen. You know, those gameplay sequences that happen are they build so much. And it's a kudos to them because at the time that was the thing. It's like, how did they seamlessly mix gameplay and storytelling together like that all in one beat? You know what I mean? Like that whole scene where you're running away, like Joel gets put upside down, you're fighting, then you meet up with Bill, then you're running off and then you go to the church. Like it's just in the set pieces, man. Like Bill's town in the game, like that's one like they tried to do, but they just took a little town and like Bill's town in the game is gorgeous, dude. Like the whole church scene, the whole graveyard scene, like they're just memorable locations that they didn't emulate it well. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, the world does look like The Last of Us, but Bill's town is very memorable, you know?
Yeah, they also like I loved all the dialogue exchanges between Bill and Ellie. Like, why can't we just grab one of these batteries? Oh yeah, genius. Why can't we just grab one of those batteries?
Yeah,
like,
all that's
there's
done.
There's so many of those moments. But again, we're coming at this bias. That's not to say that moving forward they can't achieve the same goals in a different way. Like, so maybe we'll get a different overarching story arc. And I think part of the problem is that they're setting up for season 4. And what I mean by that is part 2, we already know that they're going to make that into 2 seasons, right? They can't go along with the game. The game development takes too long. So they're going to have to branch off and go a different direction. So I'm thinking maybe they're prolonging all of this out. I guess that's what they're doing because otherwise I don't know what they're going for. So maybe they'll be able to pull this off, but they're thinking many seasons ahead. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe that's what they're doing. So they don't get the Walking Dead effect where it just starts dragging out and you're starting to be like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why, because we got to remember the showrunner is an expert. He knows what the fuck he's doing. So, and as much as like Neil Druckmann gets on my nerves with his SJW-isms, he is a phenomenal writer. So, I mean, and he's writing the script, right? So, or helping with it. So,
I think so far it's been like a hit and 2 misses, to be honest. Like in just my opinion, like the first one was more of a hit. The other 2 are like definitely the third one was a complete skip. Like I if I never see that episode again, it's like I won't be missing much. Like you literally built up this character that we know and love, and then just killed him off with no you know. And then on top of that, they leave all the guns.
Yeah.
She's like, do you have a wall full of guns? And he's like, we don't need all that. Let's go. Like what? Like what? What?
It's I don't know. I mean, I'm really hopeful that they reel us back in. I'm confident they will, because it sounds like we're just hating on it a lot. I still really enjoy the show. I'm really looking forward to every.
I'm still enjoying it too as well, and you're right. I do look forward to it like every weekend, man. Every Sunday night.
And you know the other thing, that's one of the things that actually pissed me off, that it is this episodic like bullshit. Like just let me watch it through all in one. Like I don't want to have to every week.
This kind of proves why that model works better than binge watching, because it is nonstop conversations all across the internet. It's on dude. It's on mainstream podcasts that I watch. They're talking about this shit. Joe Rogan's talking about it. Like keeping it episodic keeps it into the zeitgeist.
Oh, it also keeps you paying. It also keeps, you know what I mean? Like at some point it could kind of lose interest, where it's like the first if the first episode I was like into it. The second episode I was like, all right, I'm into it. The third episode is like kind of worse. So now I'm like, really and truly, if I miss the next one, I'm not like super hyped for it at the moment, to be honest with you. Like that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I still am. I mean, I don't know.
The bloater is supposed to be in the next episode. I saw that in the preview trailer for it. For the next episode. Yeah.
I don't. We also got to clarify this too, or put this out there. This is hands down the way to take a video game and make it into a silver screen blockbuster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Don't get it twisted. Like, and this is the funnier part too. Like, even with The Last of Us Part 2, right? People freaking dog that game out. That game, at its worst, is still better than a lot of these games out here at their absolute best, trying their freaking hardest. So don't get it wrong. That, you know.
I want to put it out there just so, in case people don't know. You and I did a complete 2-hour breakdown on Part 2. I suggest y'all go to my channel and look at that, because I think we did a pretty good job of going through it. I really
like the description for you.
I appreciate it. I absolutely adore Part 2. I think that certain parts could have been handled differently, which I'm not going to get into because I don't want to ruin it for like my parents watching this. But I have my complaints with it. But either way, overall, like that, the gameplay wise though, like that's the thing. Season 2,
untouchable,
dude. Season 2, if they don't have what I call gameplay or action sequences in the show, I'm going to be so mad, bro. Like, I'm going to throw my phone. I'm going to kick the dog.
I'm going to get a blanket.
I'm going to start wearing blankets when I'm sick.
God, that's inside baseball. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm really hoping they can pull this off. Do y'all think they're going to keep the same actress for Part 2?
Well, she's supposed to be older, right? So they could. I heard there were rumors
in real life,
a different actor.
In real life, she's old
like
enough.
19 or something there, so they could like. Because I'm pretty sure they're like pulling her hair back and like doing different things to make her look younger. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think they will.
They need to. I think they need to get rid of her. I'll be honest with you. As of right now, I feel like they need to get rid of her.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to be too mean, but yeah, anyway, so I don't know what else I could say about it, but
yeah, but I really want you to look over that scene of where Joel beats up the guard dude and looks at her, and she has this fucking smirk on her face. And I'm telling you,
that Silver, dude. Even I caught that shit, dude.
Annoyed the ever living piss out of me. Dude.
I was questioning that shit when I saw it. I was like,
yeah,
why does Ellie look like she's got like some like, oh my god, like orgasmic look on her fucking face? Dude.
And then to confirm it afterwards, I think it was Neil was like, yeah, like she loved the way how Joel did this for her and this and that, and I'm like, bro, really? Like,
that kind of makes sense though. I mean, I can see that.
No, I can see it too, but I just feel like Ellie in the original game, her innocence is just, this is not an innocent Ellie. This is an Ellie that's in the basement poking walkers in the face that she could kill and stuff. Like, it just, even that scene, I was just like, why?
Yeah, that and again, I don't want to do too many spoilers moving forward because I'm going to have my parents watch this. The innocence that you're speaking of and the way that transpires later on in the game and when it's ruined, is so huge, and I feel like they've gotten rid of that already.
Yeah, like she is not an innocent girl, like outside for the first time, and just it
No
just
spoilers. No spoilers.
there's something about her character that they're making her a little douchey, bro. Like
Yeah.
she's not listening. She's already not listening. Like, which is I don't think in the game she ever really does. Like when Joel sits her down and he's like, "Yo, look, we're gonna have these rules. These are the rules I need you to follow. Like I need you to be here. I need you to do this. I need you to do this." And he's like, like repeat it to me. And she doesn't do anything other than
Right. Until that moment.
and
And
then
so,
in the freaking show, she's out there like throwing stuff in her backpack and going to the freaking basement and poking stuff in the face and just doing too damn much. Hey, let's not walk over there. I don't want you to see that. Oh, I'm gonna walk over there anyway because, like, what is that?
yeah, I don't. They sort of like they had that moment where he says, "Don't go over there. I don't want you to see that." They had that in the gameplay sections. Remember, like she sees that. I'm trying to remember what section though.
Mm-hmm.
She asked about burning bodies and stuff, and he kind of explains it. But I think that's actually I think that's after Billstown though.
Yeah, but they see it, and then
Yeah,
he's like, avert your eyes from that. That's different than, yo, we're not. I don't want you to see what's over there. And she goes, oh, I'm gonna walk over there anyway, and just like
yeah.
steps off all willy nilly. Like, bro, that's not Ellie. Like, especially as a
Yeah.
person that's in this outside world that she's never been in, they need to tone it down with her a little bit where she's like, bro, I'm outside for the first time. I don't know what this is. Like, I just feel it's just like why? Like, what was the purpose of her going all the way down to the basement and doing that? Like, it serves
also,
nothing.
that kind of plays into, like, remember when they're in the hotel and she starts role playing like she was there as a customer. Like
Yeah.
they did it in the show, but the way they did it in the game was way more playful and way more like she's using a lot of imagination. Like her child in her, like the child in her really comes out. And so, like, a lot of those moments were ruined in the show too. Not ruined, but like they weren't as like meaningful.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
impactful moments and stuff. Yeah.
Because those are all really subtle stuff that you come across while you're foraging for toys, knickknacks, and collectibles. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, and I guess maybe some of that's kind of hard to portray on the screen, but on the silver screen. But I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like
I mean, in the game they do it in a way where it's like, all right, well, how do I go without saying anything? Later on, there's something that somebody is told not to take, and then Ellie ends up taking it.
right,
You know what I'm talking about, if you know what I'm talking about.
right.
And that's a way of doing it in the right way, where it's like, yes, she's doing wrong, but she's also doing right in a way of like, I know this person really wants this, and I'm going to take it for them, which makes her innocent. Like, the stuff that she's doing in the show just makes her a fucking douchebag. It's not cool. It's like, she's just not listening. She's doing what she wants to. She's not. It's the innocence is definitely lost with me in her right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, 100%. I don't know. I don't know. I hope they reel us back in. I hope they flip the script on us, and moreover, I need to do a better job of trying really hard not to compare it because it's ruining it for me. And I didn't do that with anything else. Like, dude, I enjoyed the dang Assassin's Creed movie because I was able to separate the two, and I love Assassin's Creed games. But for whatever reason, I cannot do it with this.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're way too invested. Like, you know what I mean? We're way too invested.
The problem when it comes to video game adaptations.
Yeah, the things that I did like about how they added the multiplayer music to the freaking show. Like, I didn't think they were going to do that.
Dude, I got hyped for that. I love that.
Yeah, right. Like, there's these little nods that are just so good, but there's a lot of things that they did so far where I'm just like, I'm not really feeling that, dude. I am not. Or they just handled it this opposite, different way that just adds up little bit by bit. You know, Tess not being a badass, Ellie being the way how she is, cool little things that they did add was like the bite. Depending on where you get bit, you take longer to turn. That's cool.
Yeah, that's
you
cool.
know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that.
So that's why, like, I get it now. Like when they came and the kid was infected, and it's like, okay, cool, you know. And I guess it showed him like he was bit on his leg or something like that, which is like the longest time it takes or something. If you get bit on like the neck or above, it takes like really short time. This is why the neighbors turned like instantly, because he was bit on his neck. So it only took him like 15 minutes, and he was outside trying to like have a burger out of freaking Ellie.
That was the other
Out of,
thing
yeah.
that they ruined on episode 1 was the opening where oh boy breaks through the glass in their house and Joel has to shoot. Like all of that was like they went a different direction with it, which is I guess cool, but like I just feel like the original was better than the way they did it in the show.
It is. And that's not even coming from a place of like, you know, it was just handled better, dude. There's a reason why that game was hailed the way how it was, and the show is good in its own right, but I just don't see it. Like for me right now, I would prefer The Walking Dead season 1 so far over this.
You're gonna see a lot of people in my comment section. Man, what the fuck you talking about, dude?
I would. It was handled phenomenally, dude.
Right,
like
it was,
the way how the way how Rick wakes up, where he wakes up, and he's in this world, but like you see him act in the world as he's never seen it before. Like the first episodes of freaking Walking Dead are amazing, dude. And it's the subtle little things that they did. Like that one zombie that was like half that was in the park, and that's like the first zombie he sees, and he bugs out, and he comes back at the end of the show, at the end of the first,
shoots
I
it,
think it's
puts out its
and
misery,
kills it, and you mean like there are things that ground him to being like real in that world that they just are not doing with Ellie. She just doesn't. Oh, I'm outside. Let me skip around and do this, and it's just.
So here's I wanted to bring this up too. One of the reasons why I'm so and this is a lot of this is based on Twitter conversations I've had with people. One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about the game being better is because I know people like my parents who did not play the game. I wanted them to experience the greatness that we did on the game, but in the show, and I feel like the show's not doing its justice, and so it makes me look like I don't know. I guess it's that's what it has to do with. I want the show to be so good, so it conveys to the people that are not familiar with the game how good this game.
I think it still will get its point across. Don't get it wrong; it's still getting its point across. For people like us who played the game, I think that's going to be the more of the issue. You know what I mean? And it's just like it's just a lot of things. It's little small things that add up over time. Like I said, the timing for the talk that he had with Ellie about tests in the middle of like in the game, it's immediate. Like Joel, and once again, this plays into the character that he is. He's a no bullshit. We got to keep on moving. We got to like. She's like Tess, and he's like, yo, done. Like we're not talking about it. Like that's it. We're gonna keep moving. You're never gonna bring her up again. Like that's the end of it. We waited all the way till they get to Bills for him to say that. Like it just. It's different.
It's weird. Like even when the city's, the outbreak is happening and they get like they traversed that chaos too fast. Like in the game, there was build up to how chaotic that was, and then Sarah gets killed. Like the way they did it in the show was like too quick. Like they didn't run through enough chaos. Like there wasn't enough build up in my opinion. I don't know. I feel like part of this is just me being really nitpicky, but because obviously, dude, if you look at the
I had my nitpicks with the show too as well, so don't even feel bad, bro.
Like the Metacritic, if you will, on the show is outstanding. My parents love it. Like everybody I know that's watching it are absolutely loving it. So I guess it's doing its job. I guess. I mean, I haven't talked about season 3 or episode 3 yet. I wonder what they'll think about that. But again, they don't know how the game was, so they might love it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good love story. It was it's a valiant way to go out, but
it made the people who didn't experience the game, it made them hit them in a certain kind of way. Because like me and Silver said earlier before I was recording the video, fucking about the whole aspect of Sarah's death, right? Like we're gonna look at that, and it's not gonna impact as good as it did in the game, because in the game it's done like, I mean, it's literally like shot for shot essentially in a way. but
Yeah.
it didn't have the same kind of emotional impact. Like it was still like tear jerky in a way for me, but not as bad as the way it was depicted in the game. However,
Yeah.
when you go and you look at like these people who have like never played the game before and reacted to it, hit them in a very, very impactful way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like
I mean,
I get it
and
from
that's
Silver's standpoint and what the game comparisons too as well, because we are going to be
yeah.
extremely biased when it comes to that.
That's the other thing too. That's a lot to pack into one episode about
Yeah.
characters that aren't going to be there anymore.
Right.
It's a lot, dude. Because you had to fall in love with Bill. You had to fall in love with his relationship. You had to follow the relationship with him and Tess and Joel and all this other stuff, right?
Right.
And then for it all to just go away, and it's like, okay, cool. That was just another spot to move to. Like, it just, I don't know, man.
Well, again, it's like
I don't hate it because of what it was. It's just
no. It's just like you just don't agree with the changes and like the way they're leaving certain things out. You know what I mean? And I agree with that because like there were certain parts in in the first 2 episodes that I wish were shown in there. You know what I mean? Like Tess's death was way too fucking soon, way too soon.
Yeah,
and it sucked too as well because like the first time you encounter her in the game, like you want to know more about her as a character. You know what I mean? And then, like, but in the show, it's just like they reveal that, like, behind the scenes stuff like that, and it just makes it not that very good. You know what I mean?
One little nod that I will give it to her is like when she does come back and Joel's in the bed, she actually like spoons him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it pushes their relationship a little bit more where you know that they were together because in the game it's implied, but it's never really like
confirmed.
A thing.
Yeah. So in the show they confirmed that.
So like when she comes and she's all fucked up and then she just like goes and holds him, like I like that I give a nod to. Like there's these little things that they did right. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it was definitely because I'm gonna go play some AoE with Faye. But yeah, no, like I mean, I love the show so far. I mean, like I said, outside from a few little nitpicks here and there, but it's just like biased, like from the stuff that I've seen in the game and how I wish they would have been better depicted from the game. But I get at the same time from the aspect too as well, like you have to pull in the other side of the audience that never played the game before. And I think they did a decent job at doing that. We obviously see it differently because we know more about the game and how, like, you know, Ellie as a character is in the game, Joel as a character in the game, Bill and all that crap like that too as well. So it's going to be more interesting to see what they do. Silver, what the fuck are you doing? It's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward because I do agree, like, I'm sure it's going to pick up at some point because the next episode is looking really crispy because I really want to see what they're planning on doing with that bloater. But I do agree on the aspect of, like, some of the iconic scenes should have definitely been there for sure. Because it kind of like, I don't know, dude. It's weird.
Yeah.
But and with that though, I guess that'll be the end of the video. I guess. Yeah. Silver's having a hard time now.
And well, now it would be cool because we can actually talk about it season like episode by episode. So maybe if we do this again, it won't have to be all 3 episodes crammed into one.
Right,
we can literally talk about the next episode when everybody else is flapping their gums about it.
I would love to have it so like we could have it so like at the end of every episode we do a quick little like 5-minute video or 10-minute video or something like that.
Yeah, that works for me.
I mean? I'm down to do that every Sunday. Yeah.
That's cool.
If Silver comes back, well, I'll have to ask him about that. But either way, all right, I'm going to end the video though, man. So